Hey everyone, Zion over here from Nintendo Life, and today we're here to share with you our review of Ghost Trick Phantom Detective on the Nintendo Switch. Now, this review was originally written by Kate Gray for NintendoLife.com, but was reworked into this video by me. Is there such a thing as a perfect game? The answer is yes, and it's this one. Listen, you're going to get to the end of this review and think to yourself, isn't a 10 out of 10 score like Zelda, Breath of the Wild? How can this 12 to 15 hour game that doesn't even have Hestu in it possibly match up? Right now, you're probably thinking that because you have not played Ghost Trick, and your life is about to change. Ghost Trick Phantom Detective is a one-off standalone game from the man behind the Ace Attorney series. Originally released on the DS in 2010, it received a fair amount of praise from critics, but never went on to become a bestseller. Instead, it lodged itself deep in the hearts of everyone who played it, becoming a cult favorite amongst those in the know, alongside other similarly underappreciated games from the same era like Hotel Dusk, The World Ends With You, and 999. Now, Ghost Trick works best the less you know about it. So here are the bare bones facts. It's a puzzly story game about a ghost who wakes up dead, but can't remember who he is or how he died. He eventually discovers that he has the power to perform ghost tricks, which allow him to explore the world even after death, and potentially get some answers to all of his questions. It also has some of the best art direction we've ever seen in a game. Ghost Trick is fairly short, but sweet, refusing to overstay its welcome in favor of a story that takes you on more twists and turns than a bag of rotini, before wrapping up in a neat and satisfying way. All of its characters are surprisingly fleshed out for how briefly you spend time with each of them as well. Their personalities are told through incredibly vivid, funny dialogue and animation. But speaking of animation, Ghost Trick's animation style is something else. There is quite genuinely no other game that looks like this. Characters move with verve and vigor, punctuating their sentences with ludicrously dynamic movements that are custom to each of them. A particularly funky detective pirouettes into the room before high-kicking and Elvis dancing his way into conversation. There's a rose-haired woman who wiggles her behind, bangs on the wall with a bottle of red, and clinks her wine glass in imaginary salute to whatever is happening that she approves of before stomping back to her typewriter to bang out pulpy romance novels. And just wait till you see how people eat chicken. These movements have to be seen to be believed, but they leave an indelible stamp of admiration and awe on your soul. The puzzles range from simple to complex, teaching you the ropes before asking you to figure out how to tie knots. Admittedly, there's at least one tricky level that relies perhaps a little too much on stealth, but other than that, the solutions are clever, satisfying, and considering this is a game that deals with death, it always manages to land the right emotion, whether it's shock, sadness, or hilarity. Sometimes, death is funny. There will be some repetition as you trial and error your way towards a solution. We've played the game multiple times before, and we still had to repeat some sections, including looking up a guide for that stealth level. But the game has generous checkpointing and the ability to fast forward through text that you've already read to speed you along. You may balk at the fact that each level has a timer, because doing puzzles under a time limit seems like a terrible idea, but don't worry too much. The timer is more of a narrative conceit than anything else, and the 4 minutes that you have to complete each level is plenty when you consider that time pauses when you're in ghost mode anyways. Without giving too much away, the story is one of the best we've experienced in a game. Genuinely, Shu Takumi is a master of plot twists, as anyone who's played Ace Attorney, especially Trials and Tribulations, will know. And each twist in Ghost Trick is parceled out marvelously, exactly when you need it, without feeling too trite and contrived. You'll question motives, you'll wonder who to trust, but you'll also fall in love with almost every member of the cast in the meantime, either through their words or their actions, by which we of course mean their animation. Now, hopefully that's sold Ghost Trick to you enough already, because now it's time to talk about the port itself. Ace Attorney fans may recall that the Ace Attorney remakes did some pretty ugly things to the art in order to make it HD. So some of you are probably worried about the same thing happening to Ghost Trick. And how well has the team adapted the dual screen 4x3 nature of the game to the Switch's single 16:9 widescreen? Well, there's some good news and potentially some bad news. The game looks as fantastic as ever. We were worried that the animation looked a bit awkward at first, but it translates beautifully to high def and is still as gorgeous as it was when our minds were first blown back on the DS. If anything, you can appreciate much more of the detail that was lost on the tiny handheld back then. However, the 4x3 resolution this remaster retains necessitates the addition of 2 chunky bars on both sides of the main game screen. So if you're not a fan of how the Nintendo Switch Online games look, you may be a little disappointed. It's worth noting that you can change the look of the bars using cute art from the game. Honestly, we stopped noticing the bars pretty quick, and it's a small price to pay for Ghost Trick in our hands and hearts again. And as for the second screen, it's just gone, which is no great loss, honestly. The top screen usually showed info about the in-game items, and that's just now been incorporated into one screen, with the amount of time remaining for each puzzle displayed on the bars on the side. Easy peasy. But what about extra content? Is there any? Sure. Though we might not have missed it. There are 4 main additions which unlock as you play through the game's chapters. The first is illustrations and concept art from the game, which are extremely cool to see once you've finished the whole thing. The second is music from the game, which is composed by Masakazu Sugimori, who is the original composer for the Ace Attorney series, and this soundtrack, it slaps. Although listening to the soundtrack on a Switch isn't the ideal way to get your groove on. The third new addition is achievements, which are largely split into 2 types, completing chapters and just being good at the game. You'll earn achievements for things like completing levels with no mistakes. This bit really is just for fun, since the Switch doesn't really reward achievements anyway. And the last is, ghost puzzles, which feels like a weird afterthought. It's just like sliding puzzles, representing some of the game's scenes. And maybe we're stupid, which is very likely, but we couldn't even get it to work. We do not care for ghost puzzles. But aside from ghost puzzles, this is a supremely good port of a supremely good game. We were kinda hoping you'd be won over by the first paragraph of this review, but now that you're here, we really hope we've got you now. This is one of the best, most underrated games that we've ever played, and there's a good reason why we will never shut up about Ghost Trick. Now we implore you to find out for yourself what that reason is. Ghost Trick Phantom Detective was and still is one of the best games on the Nintendo DS, and now it's one of the best games on Nintendo Switch. If you're a fan of Ace Attorney, Danganronpa, The Somnium Files, any of the games we've mentioned, or just enjoy having a dang good time with a brilliant story and stunning art, then why are you still here? Go and get Ghost Trick, and then come back later after you're done and we can talk all about it. We here at Nintendo Life give Ghost Trick Phantom Detective on the Nintendo Switch a 10 out of 10. Now, if you'd like to check out our full written review or any of our past works praising Ghost Trick, you can find more coverage over at nintendolife.com. Be sure to let us know in the comments down below if you're planning to pick up Ghost Trick for yourself or if you played it back in the day. And of course, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more videos like this, then why don't you trick that subscribe button into being a ghost, because that sounds like a fun time, and then ring that notification bell to be notified whenever we put up new videos. Thank you all so much for watching, and thank you to Kate Gray for coming back to review Ghost Trick for us. I'm Zion from Nintendo Life, stay safe out there, and we will see you all next time.